According to the 2017 National Diabetes Statistics Report, over 30 million people living in the United States have diabetes. That's almost 10% of the US population. And diabetes is the seventh leading cause of death in the United States, causing, at least in part, over 250,000 deaths in 2015. That's why it's so important to take steps to reverse diabetes and the diabetes epidemic in America. Type 2 diabetes is a dangerous disease that can lead to many other health conditions when it's not managed properly, including kidney disease, blindness, leg and foot amputations, nerve damage, and even death. 1. Type 2 diabetes is a completely preventable and reversible condition, and with diet and lifestyle changes, you can greatly reduce your chances of getting the disease or reverse the condition if you've already been diagnosed. If you are one of the millions of Americans struggling with diabetes symptoms, begin the steps to reverse diabetes naturally today. With my diabetic diet plan, suggested supplements and increased physical activity, you can quickly regain your health and reverse diabetes the natural way. The diabetes epidemic. Diabetes has grown to epidemic proportions, and the latest statistics revealed by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention state that 30.3 million Americans have diabetes, including the 7.2 million people who weren't even aware of it. Diabetes is affecting people of all ages, including 132,000 children and adolescents younger than 18 years old. The prevalence of prediabetes is also on the rise, as it's estimated that almost 34 million U.S. adults were prediabetic in 2015. People with prediabetes have blood glucose levels that are above normal but below the defined threshold of diabetes. Without proper intervention, people with prediabetes are very likely to become type 2 diabetics within a decade. The cost of diabetes to our nation is a staggering $245 billion a year as of 2012. The American Diabetes Association reports that the average medical expenditure for people with diabetes was about $13,700 per year. People with diabetes typically have medical costs that are approximately 2.3 times higher than those without diabetes. Aside from the financial costs of diabetes, the more frightening findings are the complications and coexisting conditions. In 2014, 7.2 million hospital discharges were reported with diabetes as a listed diagnosis. Patients with diabetes were treated for major cardiovascular diseases, ischemic heart disease, stroke, lower extremity amputation and diabetic ketoacidosis. The cause of diabetes. Diabetes is an illness related to elevated blood sugar levels. When you stop releasing and responding to normal amounts of insulin after eating foods with carbohydrates, sugar and fats, you have diabetes. Insulin, a hormone that's broken down and transported to cells to be used as energy, is released by the pancreas to help with the storage of sugar and fats. But people with diabetes don't respond to insulin properly, which causes high blood sugar levels and diabetes symptoms. It's important to note that there's a difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Here's an explanation of the two types of diabetes and what causes these conditions. Type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is commonly called juvenile diabetes because it tends to develop at a younger age, typically before a person turns 20 years old. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreas. The damage to the pancreatic cells leads to a reduced ability or complete inability to create insulin. Some of the common causes that trigger this autoimmune response may include a virus, genetically modified organisms, heavy metals, or foods like wheat, cow's milk and soy. The reason foods like wheat and cow's milk have been linked to diabetes is because they contain the proteins gluten and A1 casein. These proteins can cause leaky gut, which in turn causes systemic inflammation throughout the body and over time can lead to autoimmune disease. Type 1 diabetes is rarely reversed, but with the right dietary changes major improvements in blood sugar levels can be seen and a person can often reduce his or her dependence on insulin and medications. Type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is the most common form of diabetes, and unlike type 1 diabetes, it usually occurs in people over the age of 40, especially those who are overweight. Type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance, which means that the hormone insulin is being released, but a person doesn't respond to it appropriately. Type 2 diabetes is a metabolic disorder that's caused by high blood sugar. The body can keep up for a period of time by producing more insulin, but over time the insulin receptor sites burn out. Eventually, diabetes can affect nearly every system in the body, impacting your energy, digestion, weight, sleep, vision and more. There are many underlying causes of type 2 diabetes, and the disease usually develops because of a combination of factors, including 6. Having a poor diet, being overweight, having high levels of inflammation, living a sedentary lifestyle, experiencing high amounts of stress, having a family history of diabetes, especially a parent or sibling, having high blood pressure or a history of heart disease, having a hormonal condition, like hyperthyroidism, polycystic ovary syndrome or Cushing's syndrome, being exposed to toxins, viruses or harmful chemicals, taking certain medications, like those that disrupt insulin production. Thankfully, there are ways to reverse diabetes naturally. Step 1. Remove these foods to reverse diabetes naturally. Step 2. Incorporate these foods to treat diabetes. Step 3. Take these supplements for diabetes. Step 4. Follow this eating plan to reverse diabetes. Step 5. Exercise to balance blood sugar. Thanks for your watching. Check out description and comment. Subscribe me.